Hi, everybody, and welcome to Slooh, your interface to outer space. I'm your host for this evening, Eric Edelman, and tonight we're going to be exploring some different parts of our very own solar system. So, right now, what we're doing is we're looking live at a planet some of us are probably a little bit familiar with, some that we have to be very careful with when we're trying to be cleanly. You can't really put it in the bathtub or else it'll leave a ring. This is our planet Saturn. And so it's a gorgeous part of our solar system. Rumor has it it's Neil deGrasse Tyson's favorite planet and one we love to look at a lot here on Slooh. And we're going to be exploring a bit about that planet here today. We human beings, we are very lucky because we live on this planet Earth that has oxygen to breathe, water to drink, food to eat, just the perfect amount of sunlight for us to survive. And alongside that, we get to look up and gaze at all of this, the universe. We have eyes and telescopes that show us planets, the galaxies, the supernova. There is so much that we get to see of this harsh, dramatic, immense cosmos, while at the same time being safe away from most of the action on our peaceful little planet. It's nice, it's comfortable, but maybe it's not everything. There are some folks out there that think we can do even better. Some people that understand how dangerous it is to leave this planet, but are actually excited at the same time by the potential they see for us beyond this starting place. The same sort of people that in the 60s and the 70s put boots down on the moon 240,000 miles away from home. People that you might call dreamers or doers or perhaps everything in between. And we're going to talk with one of them here today. Joining us on the show is Astronaut Abby, an amateur astronomer and enthusiast of all things space. She is the founder of the nonprofit called the Mars Generation and hopes to be the first person to be physically on the red planet we have right next door, the first astronaut on Mars. So perhaps it's safe to say we're going to be hearing from ambition personified here today. So, Abby, I would love to welcome you to the show. Thanks for joining us here on Slooh today.
Thanks for having me, Eric. And wow, what an introduction. That was pretty magnificent, I have to say.
Oh,
You
thank
made
you.
me
It's
almost
so great
question if
to.
I should be going to Saturn instead of Mars.
Oh, yeah. So this is the sales pitch right here for you to go further out into the solar system. There's so many options. Why do you just have to stick with one? But yeah, one of the things we're focusing here today on is Saturn, this lovely planet Saturn. And one of the things that I think is interesting to a lot of people that observe Saturn, they look out at the cosmos from year to year and see this planet again and again, is that to our eyes, to our perspective, it's not exactly constant. And one of the Slooh members actually here, we have our fun members that do a lot of different things. One of them imaged the planet over time, showing a bit of the changes that we see. And it's so we see a change in the rings. It almost looks like somebody that has a sun visor on in the distance is sort of nodding at us here on Earth. And so we get to see this interesting change. And one thing I was wondering is in your time sort of looking at and studying different objects in the solar system, are there changes, movements of a planet, a comet, a star that have really stuck with you that you've been able to see for yourself, evidence of some motion in space that's caught your eye?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that Saturn is one of the very visible ones. And during the school year, I work in an observatory at Wellesley College. And Saturn is one of the things that we always show people on. We have a lot of family nights and things like that where we try and involve the community. And if Saturn's out, that's immediately what we go to because people just love to see the rings. And being an amateur astronomer who looked through a large telescope for the first time in my life about a year ago as well, I vividly remember the first time that I looked at Saturn and saw those magnificent rings and saw how it changes as you look at it throughout different years and different seasons. And so that's one that I feel like it's not very creative to say Saturn because we're talking about Saturn all day, but it really is a very visual and stunning celestial object to look at.
Absolutely. It's amazing to when you see some people that are looking through a telescope for the first time, the expression on their face as they first see Saturn. Saturn is like you hit the nail on the head there. There's just so much to really be amazed about when you're looking at that for the first time or for the second time. There's just a lot to Saturn.
Yeah, no
And
matter what
so
time it is, we love to look at Saturn all the time. I mean, I think another really common and popular one is Jupiter. When you can get the moons of Jupiter transiting across the surface, that's fantastic to be able to see as well, and is really a popular planet.
Jupiter is so big, both literally and figuratively. I think the Galilean moons just make it so amazing to see a system within a solar system, right? And so, as somebody who's seen a lot of this stuff and is just already seems so interested in astronomy when you're so young relative to I think a lot of us in the astronomy community, I was wondering when did you start really getting excited about astronomy, and what started that interest? Was it looking at Saturn, or looking at a planet, or reading a book? What really sparked that interest?
Wow, you hit both of them right on the head there.
Oh.
So I had two factors when I was a kid, when I was really little, so probably around 4 or 5 years old, that inspired me and sparked this desire to be an astronaut and to travel through space and to really explore both on Earth and off what space has to offer. And those two things were reading science fiction and a natural curiosity for the night sky. And so I can remember being a kid and going outside in Minnesota and looking up at the night sky, and on those really cold winter nights, the air is so clear and so crisp, and even when you're in the city, you can see just incredible amounts of stars and the occasional planet. And I always would look up and I'd ask myself questions about, what's out there, what can you discover, what's that bright thing, all of those things. And then the more I learned, the more interested and excited I became about it. But the flip side of that was that was very real and physical. You could go out and look at the night sky. The flip side of that was the unreal, was reading science fiction. My dad is and was a huge geek. So I grew up on a steady diet of science fiction, both in the form of movies and TV and reading. And so it never crossed my mind that space exploration was impossible. Because to me, people that I felt like I'd known personally from reading about them or watching them were doing it all the time. We're traveling through not just our solar system, but throughout the entire universe. And so it really created this concept that this was a real goal that I could go after. And luckily enough, we live in the 21st century where it is.
That's an amazing story, and I think you're seeing just so much potential for us human beings, and so much potential out there in the universe for us to experience, to explore. And as someone who's seen so much and is curious about so much, I'm wondering how you ended up narrowing your focus to be really passionate, in particular, about the planet Mars. How did that sort of rise above the rest to become this amazing goal in your mind?
Right, that's a great question. So, why Mars? When we just talked about how magnificent and fantastic it is to look at Saturn or to look at Jupiter, or even to look at the moon, which is so much closer to Earth and maybe more logical to go to again. Why Mars? Well, it goes back to when I first became interested in space and I started, looking at stuff in the night sky and saying, what is that? Wow, that one looks weird. What's that? And I would start learning about them. And as I was researching these objects in the night sky, I realized that Mars has this unique position where it really is our next stepping stone in space and in human exploration of space in particular. So Mars is in a sweet spot for us where it's far enough away that it really pushes our boundaries and our capabilities of what we can do in space, what we can realistically do using the technology that we have here and now and that we can develop in the near future. So it's something that's possible, but it's also something that is difficult enough that we have to really strive for it and that it'll help us to build up our ability to do Earth independent exploration. So even though it's close enough that we can get there, it's far enough away that we can't rely on Earth to solve every problem that comes up along the way on a mission to and from Mars. And so by doing that, it's almost a proving ground or an ability to develop these concepts of how deeper space exploration will go. So if we can go to Mars, who's to say that we can't go and orbit humans around Saturn or around Jupiter or land them on one of the Galilean satellites? And then at that point, who's to say that we can't send humans to Pluto? So it all builds off of one another. And in my opinion, Mars is the perfect logical next step in that pattern.
It's great to hear your perspective, which seems like it has this, logical scientific rationality to it where you're considering all these variables and, getting, sort of the next reasonable trajectory for human beings out in space. And alongside that, there's this a sense of you being a dreamer, an aspirer to something, and there's this, that science fiction exploration, learning more about, what we're capable of. So this mixture of, the science and the romance of exploration. I think it's this. It's great to see more and more people that are dreaming and doing all these things. And I think I've heard a bit about this exciting nonprofit that I think gets into a lot of that you've uh, made a reality, no longer a dream, it's a reality. The Mars Generation. I was wondering if you could tell our viewers a little bit about what that is, what you're doing there with that interesting organization.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought it up. The Mars Generation is the nonprofit that I started about a year and a half ago, and we are a space and STEAM advocacy organization. So we try to educate people about both the realities of space exploration and really bring truths to the public in a way that they're interesting and exciting, and also just try and inspire people about what space exploration holds for the future and how we can all be involved in that. So there are three main programs that we run at the Mars Generation. And the first one is that we run a student space ambassador program, which is a way that we're connecting students with leadership roles and then also with people within the space industry and really a lot of STEM industries who can help to mentor them so that we can foster this connection of young people with experienced people and kind of do a direct pathway for them to reach for those dreams and aspirations that they have in the future. So that's one of our really big programs is creating this community of young people who all have huge dreams, huge goals. Some of them are the same as mine, to go to Mars. Our second program is our Future of Space outreach program, which is taking what we're doing with young people and bringing it, in essence, to the rest of the world as well. So, trying to really excite and interest people through a lot of different ways, including social media and blogging and vlogging, all of that, to take an interest in space exploration, and in doing so, to also support young people who are going to be the future of space exploration. So our third program, if you're still with me, is trust me, you want to be here for this one because it's very cool. Is that we provide scholarships for students of need to go to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, and we are the only program in the world that provides full paid scholarships. So that includes tuition for the camp itself, a spending stipend while they're there, transportation, all of those pieces are included. And that makes a really big deal because for a lot of students who are in need, even if they get a tuition scholarship, flying from California, say, down to Huntsville, or from where I live, Minnesota, to Huntsville, that costs a lot. And for students, that can really be the make or break point. And so we're trying to reach into communities and offer students these opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have.
It's great to see a focus on the young, giving them the tools, the opportunity, because a lot of times people are born into these situations where they are in a big city, they can't see the stars, or they don't have the access, and providing that access will be so valuable to growing our astronomy community in really powerful ways. So it's exciting to hear that you're doing that. And for people that maybe want to be involved in this kind of organization in either helping or trying to see if they could get help from this kind of organization. What can we do? How can we get involved with the Mars Generation?
Yes, that's a great question. The best way to get involved with the Mars Generation is to go on over to themarsgeneration.org, and you can see all of our different ways that you can get involved there. You can become a member. You can, if you are under 24, you can become a member of our Student Space Ambassador program, which I talked about earlier. There's also things like, of course, you can donate. We're really happy if you donate so that we can send those kids to space camp. And then there are other ways. You can email us and offer to write a blog post, those kinds of things. And right now, you can also go and you can submit a recommendation for someone who is under 24 years of age to go into our 24 under 24 program, which is recognizing up and coming people in STEM and just trying to it'll be an award show type thing that's happening. The nominations for it are closing as of September 15th, and you should go on over to the Mars Generation to double check those dates. But yeah, so go over there, and then you can also find us at the Mars Generation on pretty much every social media channel. And we'd love to have you be part of our community of interest in space.
There we go, plugging into the world in all the different ways. So yeah, you find the Mars generation, nominate your friends, do all that fun stuff. It really does sound like you're doing a whole lot of great work over there. And here at Slooh, we try to do some ourselves. We're all about bringing space a little closer to our community. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a little bit of a short break, and then we'll get into some of that Slooh community content about Mars, Saturn, and more, along with discussing the possibility for exploring objects in our solar system other than just Mars. I mean, we have Saturn on the screen, but what does that mean? Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Give the gift of the universe. Give the gift of Slooh, a celebration of every magical moment in the night sky. For just $60, you can give the budding space. Give the gift of the universe. Give the gift of Slooh, a celebration of every magical moment in the night sky. For just $60, you can give the budding space explorer in your life the gift of a full year of Slooh membership. It's available now at slooh.com.
We've been all over the world chasing solar eclipses to share with you. This time, you're coming with us. Join Slooh as we expedition to Stanley, Idaho to celebrate the transcontinental eclipse on August 21st. Sign up today at slooh.com. Space is limited.
Hello and welcome back to Slooh. Tonight we are joined with Astronaut Abby, and before the break we were talking about our ability as human beings to go way beyond where we've been before, to explore our solar system, not just through proxies, not just through looking through telescopes or sending robotic probes or rovers. We have some curiosity on Mars, but we can do even better than that. We were talking about physically going to these places, taking humanity beyond Earth and the moon to more distant alien frontiers, places we've imagined that Matt Damon has been to, say. But Abby, I think that you are somebody who, opposed to just in the movies, actually wants to get to Mars, be the first person on Mars, and not necessarily to just grow potatoes. Is that right?
This is true, although I wouldn't say no to growing potatoes on Mars because potatoes are delicious. So,
That's very true.
but hopefully we'll do a little bit more than that. In the next couple decades, we are looking at having potential human missions to Mars, and I definitely want to be a part of those. And I hope and I know that there are a lot of other young people out there right now, hopefully some of them watching this presentation, who want to join me as well on that.
It's it'll be exciting to see what your organization can do in terms of inspiring more, maybe a generation of future space explorers. There's so much potential out there, not just in the universe, but here on Earth too. I love that. And beyond Mars, potential beyond Mars. There are other places in the solar system that could be great places to put boots on the ground. Perhaps maybe a moon of one of the gassy giant planets like Saturn's Enceladus, or are there other places in your mind that would be great to explore, Mars being a first step, then beyond that?
Yeah, so first off, I have to commend you on putting the title of this presentation in there because that was well done.
It's what I do.
It's not official until you've said it. So
You
now we
got
can
it.
talk about it. I think that Enceladus has a lot of potential as being a really interesting and exciting place that after we've established this ability of, for example, going to Mars and having Earth independent space exploration, we could go to Enceladus and see what's going on out there because we've seen a lot of really cool stuff through both telescope visuals and through probes that have flown past, where Enceladus has portions of it that are smooth, that don't have any cratering on them, which is really surprising because there's a lot of impacts going on out in that part of the solar system. And that indicates to us that there's geologic activity that is resurfacing the moon over time. And we've also seen liquid geysers coming up from the planet, potentially of water. And so there's a lot on Enceladus that we could go and look for. We could look for the potential of life. There's a lot on the Galilean satellites as well, in that same kind of stream of looking at looking at liquid water and other liquid chemicals out there, and whether they have the potential for life as well. So, the it's a new field that we're looking into, of being able to not only look at this Goldilocks zone or this habitable zone that encompasses the Earth, but also look at these gas giants and the effect that they have on their satellites or their moons to create a kind of pseudo habitable zone. It really broadens the possibilities of where life could exist in our solar system, and is definitely worth checking out.
100% on board with that. And there's this, I think you touched on it really, the unique perspective that human beings can bring to that exploration. And there's a lot of science that will be so amazing, so incredible to discover, to explore, to reveal from astronauts actually physically being there. But then on the other side of that coin, I think there's also just a beauty, an amazing perspective that people would be able to get physically being there, that even though we get these amazing images that boggle our minds, that explode our synapses with their incredible foreignness to what we experience, being there in person has its own amazing wonders. And a Slooh member actually posted near our Saturn in Opposition show a few weeks ago about what we would see on Earth if it had its own rings like Saturn, just this different solar system perspective. And so, if we got to Enceladus and we were learning all about the potential for habitability on a moon, what these geysers are all about, at the same time, it seems like it would be really just amazing to be able to see rings so close up. As somebody who wants to get out into the solar system and explore, seeing rings firsthand, what are your thoughts on that? Would that be pretty cool?
I think that that sounds like it would be very cool. I mean, you know what they say, if you like it, you should have put a ring on it. So we like Saturn a lot. It already has rings. It seems like everything is in order there. Um, but all jokes aside, I'm really sorry about that one. Um, that's one of my favorite art forms, is the conceptual work that has been done by artists in many different genres, imagining what it would look like if for example, Earth had different aspects to it, like rings or more moons or more suns, or what it would look like from various exoplanets that we've discovered out in the universe. I really love that as an art form, this view, and I think there's one of them actually on our screen right now, of what would the sky look like if we had rings or if we had extra moons or whatnot. I think it's really beautiful, and I hope that we keep seeing a lot more of that kind of art, and eventually someday get to see it in person from the surface of Enceladus.
One of these days, right? We just have to keep
Right.
counting down. And as somebody who's so interested in science fiction and in those stories, is there any story that you've read, any sort of scene, any sort of visual that was, brought to life through the pages of those books that you've read, that you, as an explorer in space, would really love to see in person?
Hmm. So you're
Challenge.
putting me on the spot here now, because there are so many good ones to choose
Mhm.
from.
Right?
So, I think that one that's always struck me as being really a magnificent sight to see, and something that we can't necessarily even fully imagine until we see it, is the idea of being close to a black hole. So what it
Mm.
would look like to approach, hopefully at a safe distance, something that doesn't release any form of light. And I think that, so I don't know if you've heard about this, but every now and then they come out with like a new paint color or something, or a new type of material that has the lowest reflection light of any material and supposedly is the blackest black that we've seen on Earth. And you look at that and it's so incredibly deep looking. And then you have to imagine what would a black hole look like compared to that material that we produce on Earth. And it's mind-boggling to try and imagine what that would be like. So for me, it's reading about uh, any series that involves going close to a black hole. Everything from, Star Trek has all kinds of run-ins with black holes. I'm trying to throw out popular ones. Interstellar had a run-in with a black hole. Just all of those. They're great.
It's simultaneously so amazing and terrifying to think
So
about.
terrifying.
Just if there's a black hole anywhere near in the vicinity, catastrophe abound. But this place that's so foreign to what we know of, what we can recreate in laboratories, this uh, pioneering uh, area of physics that is just it's so off limits to us. It's so alluring and terrifying at the same time for me
I like
personally.
that you bring up the terrifying aspect because that's one of the things is that black holes are really fascinating and interesting to think about, but they're also literally one of the worst ways to die. Because you just get drawn out into this long piece of spaghetti and it's like you just keep stretching forever and it sounds terrible. And that goes for a lot of things in space where you look at them and they're majestic and they're exciting and then you think about it more and you're like, oh, that actually sounds so awful.
It's good to have some distance occasionally, and I think I was
So
planning to oh, I think I was planning to eat spaghetti tonight, but I think I might have to change my plans.
not anymore.
But you know, there's lots of options, which makes it good. And so we have a lot of things that we look at, we envision going to, and recently, actually, some Slooh members have been having some really great conversations about exoplanets, about planets orbiting stars other than our sun. We've been talking a bit about our local neighborhood, our Saturn, our Mars, but there's stuff out there beyond all that. We're finding more and more planets around more and more stars. And I'm wondering, as somebody that's considering exploring all these different things, do you envision humanity maybe one day finding its way outside of the solar system? Do you maybe think or hope we'll have boots on the ground on Proxima B or something like that some day, hundreds or thousands of years from now?
I love the idea of it. I think that it may be a little bit far out for you and me to aspire to that, but at the same time, who am I to say that tomorrow or the day after or next week we're not going to discover a means of transportation or of fixing various problems that we have with long term space travel that will enable us to either get to exoplanets more quickly or to survive better in space and therefore transit to them? I mean, the future is an unwritten script that as of now none of us can say what we're going to or not, but I think that those are looking at putting humans on exoplanets is something that we should definitely keep in mind, and hopefully one day see, especially once we've heard things about the recent 7 exoplanets that were discovered that were, what was it, with the TRAPPIST system.
TRAPPIST is 6 out of 7 Earth-like.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about that. And it just raises the question of, sorry, I have to keep coming back to this because I'm an astrobiologist. Is there life? If they're Earth-like, is there life? And if so, what kind? And what can we discover from that? And what will we see when we go there? So absolutely, we have to go there. It's just a question of when and how. But it's not an if, it's a definite.
And that's great to hear because I think what's going to drive our future, our goals, our steps away from ourselves is going to be that passion, is going to be that willingness to go the distance and to do what needs to be done to leap these scientific hurdles. And it's really comforting to see that there are people out there like you that want to not only do that themselves but inspire others to join in on the mission. I think we're in a pretty good place at this point. And we have a lot of people out there that are excited about space in a lot of different ways. Some people, they're content with just looking up at the night sky, enjoying the view, while others, perhaps I might say like you, look up at the stars and want to close the distance between themselves and what they see. And I personally, I find both sentiments really, really fundamentally inspiring. Finding beauty just in the universe, and also seeing humanity's potential spaces throughout that universe of going there. And a lot of Slooh members, they've actually been observing and imaging our solar system for years, for a long time, just looking, gazing out. And I was wondering if you could tell us a bit from your perspective as an explorer, as somebody so intimately tied to the universe in a lot of different ways. What's your thoughts on the importance of just looking, of this importance of stargazing, of just seeing? What do we gain from that?
Right. I really like that question, and to start off, I want to just give you a quote from my favorite movie and one of my favorite books, which is Stardust by Neil Gaiman, who's an excellent author. And the quote is something along the lines of, "Are we human because we gaze at the stars, or do we gaze at the stars because we are human?" And I think that that sums up what it means to what our relationship with the cosmos is as humans, is that we, for as long as we can tell, we've been looking up at the night sky, and we've been dreaming about what's out there and also staying grounded here on earth. And so I think that we have a long history and hopefully a long future of being explorers, both physically and mentally. And that mentally might be just staring at the night sky. It might be creating stories about the night sky. It might be enjoying the cosmos and the stars and sharing that with the people around you or teaching your kids about them. Or it might be actually going out and setting foot on something farther than Earth. Or it might be supporting the missions to set foot on non Earth bodies. Which there's a lot of areas in the space industry that we don't even think about that would support a mission to Mars or a mission to Enceladus or a mission to an exoplanet, such as artists or publicists or organizers. You know, we always think about the traditional STEM fields. We think about science, technology, engineering, and math, and we say, you know, STEM people, the engineers and the chemists, and the astronauts, those are the people who we need to get to Mars. And that's true, we do need those people. But we also need all of the other people, the people who want to stay here on Earth, who really love to look up at the night sky and look at the stars, but don't want to leave. We need them too, because they play a huge role in making sure that we as humanity can both look at the night sky and go to the night sky. So, yeah, we're very tied to both aspects of that.
I suppose really no matter what anybody's doing with their life, there's a place for them in this movement. There's a place for them to support or do, to be part of the dream, the imaginative side, to be part of the science. So it's great to hear, from somebody who's so tied to both sides of things. I think that, yeah, we have a lot of opportunities for anybody who really wants to get involved here, and that's so exciting to hear, for not only I think everybody who might be a dreamer on this side of things, but also for the future of our space exploration and our willingness to go further with science and astronomy. So Abby, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Slooh tonight. It was so great to talk with you. It's been fun exploring our solar system and beyond, Saturn, Mars, exoplanets, all that great stuff. Thank you again.
Well, thank you for having me, Eric. I really love Slooh, and I mean, it's one of those things that we can do to become involved in space, is to watch Slooh, or to go outside and look up at the night sky, and then watch Slooh so that you know what you're looking at. So it was an honor to be on here, and it was a great time getting to chat space with you.
Yeah, thanks again. There is so much to explore, and it's great to hear from you a lot of those opportunities. And for all of you out there watching, I hope that you enjoyed the show as well. And be sure to visit, yeah, us on slooh.com, like Abby said. You can join in on our exploration of both Mars and all that other stuff out there in the solar system. You can use our telescopes to see images, just like these views we got of Saturn in the night sky here tonight, alongside any number of other interesting objects out there. Also, be sure to join us on July 7th as we celebrate Tanabata, the Japanese Star Festival, and view the stars that map out the myth of the lovers Orihime and Hikoboshi as they travel across the Milky Way on their yearly journey to see each other once more after being separated for a little bit of time. And don't forget, in August, Slooh and its members are going out to Stanley, Idaho to view the transcontinental total solar eclipse on August 21st. One of the most amazing celestial events that you can see with your naked eye, a break in the everyday cycles of day and night of nature. Astronomy interrupts it for us in a really big way. So this is going to be an amazing week to celebrate this incredible event, and we're inviting all of you to join us on our trip. We still have some open slots on Slooh for Slooh members, and so sign up on our website and register to join us in person for that eclipse. We hope to see you there. Now, that's all for us tonight. Thank you for joining us for the show and for being a part of the community. I'm Eric Edelman. You've been watching Slooh, and have a great night.